My neighbor finally asked, "Why do you keep avoiding me?" I whispered, "Because every time I look at you, I remember everything I'm too afraid to lose." That was the moment everything broke and everything began. I didn't plan to avoid her. It just happened. At first it was accidental, leaving 5 minutes earlier, coming home 5 minutes later, taking the long way around the block, pretending to check my phone when I heard her door open. But accidents turn into habits, and habits turn into walls. She noticed, of course. She always noticed everything. Her name was Clara. She lived next door, in the narrow blue house with the white porch railing that was always chipped no matter how many times she painted it. We'd moved in around the same time, two strangers with matching boxes and tired smiles, exchanging polite hellos that slowly turned into real conversations. At least, they used to. Clara had a laugh that carried, not loud in an annoying way, just warm, like it belonged in open spaces. When she laughed, you wanted to know the joke even if you were across the street. She had this habit of tucking her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, and she was nervous more often than she let on. I knew these things because once I paid attention. Once I looked forward to seeing her. That was the problem. The day she finally confronted me was late afternoon. The sky was that soft orange that makes everything feel temporary. I was unlocking my door when I heard her voice behind me. "Hey." I froze, just for a second, long enough for her to notice. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I turned slowly, already knowing what was coming. She stood at the edge of her porch, arms crossed, not defensive, just holding herself together. "Why do you keep avoiding me?" There it was, no anger, no accusation, just confusion mixed with something that looked dangerously close to hurt. I swallowed. "Because looking at you hurts," I said. The word surprised both of us. Her face changed instantly, like I'd shattered a glass she didn't even know she was holding. "What does that mean?" I shook my head. "I shouldn't have said that." "But you did." Silence settled between us, heavy and alive. Somewhere down the street a dog barked, a car passed. Life kept moving like nothing had just cracked open. "Did I do something?" she asked quietly. "No, God, no." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling stupid and exposed. "You didn't do anything." "Then why does it hurt to look at me?" I wanted to lie, something easy, something clean, but lies have weight, and I was already carrying too much, because every time I do, I said, I remember everything I don't have. She stared at me, trying to read between the words. "That's not fair," she said finally. "I know. You don't get to disappear and then drop something like that on me." She was right, and still I didn't know how to fix it. "I'm not asking you to fix anything," I said. "I just needed space." "From me?" "From what I feel when I'm around you." Her eyes softened, and that somehow hurt worse than anger would have. "I wish you'd talk to me," she said. "I know." She nodded slowly. "Okay." That was it. No dramatic exit, no tears. She went back inside, and I stood there feeling like I'd just let something precious slip through my fingers. That night, I didn't sleep. Memories have a way of showing up when the lights are off. The first time Clara brought over soup when I was sick. The way she remembered I didn't like sugar in my coffee. The nights we sat on our steps talking about nothing and everything until the stars came out. I told myself I was protecting us both by pulling away. The truth was simpler and uglier. I was afraid that if I stayed close I'd want more. Afraid that I wasn't enough to deserve what I wanted. Afraid that she'd see all the cracks I worked so hard to hide. The next few days were torture. We passed each other without speaking. Her laughter still carried, but it wasn't for me anymore. I caught glimpses of her through windows, moving around her kitchen, living a life I no longer belonged to. And it hurt, more than looking at her ever did. On the fourth day, there was a knock on my door. I already knew it was her. When I opened it, Clara stood there holding a small cardboard box. Her eyes were calm but determined. "I'm not here to argue," she said. "I just need to say something." I stepped aside, letting her in. She placed the box on the table. Inside were small things, notes, a spare key, a mug I'd left at her place. "I don't like being avoided," she said, "and I don't like guessing how someone feels, so I'm going to be clear." My chest tightened. "I don't know what hurts you," she continued, "but I do know this. If you're pushing me away because you think you're protecting me, you're not. You're just deciding for me." I looked down at the box. I never meant to. I know, she interrupted gently. You're not cruel. You're scared. I looked up, startled. She smiled sadly. It shows. We stood there, inches apart, 1,000 unsaid words filling the space between us. I'm not asking you to choose me, she said. I'm just asking you not to disappear. Silence stretched again, but this time it felt different. Fragile, hopeful, terrifying. I don't know how to stop it from hurting, I admitted. She stepped closer. Maybe it hurts because it matters. Her words settled deep where fear lived. I can't promise anything, I said. She nodded. Neither can I. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. But I'd rather deal with the pain of honesty than the pain of being shut out. When she left, the house felt emptier than it ever had, and for the first time I wondered if avoiding her had never been about pain at all, but about love I was too afraid to face. After Clara left that night, I sat on the floor with my back against the couch, staring at the cardboard box she'd brought. The room smelled faintly like her soap, something clean, almost citrus, and it made my chest ache in a way that felt physical. I kept replaying her words over and over. I'd rather deal with the pain of honesty than the pain of being shut out. It sounded brave when she said it, noble, easy. It wasn't. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual, not because I was rested, but because my mind refused to let me sleep. I stood at the kitchen window with a mug of coffee growing cold in my hands, watching the street slowly come alive. When Clara's front door opened, my heart jumped before I could stop it. She stepped outside wearing a gray hoodie and running shoes, her hair tied back loosely. She stretched, earbuds dangling around her neck. For a second, she looked toward my house. I stepped back from the window like I'd been caught doing something wrong. That became our new normal. Near misses, almost hellos. The space between us wasn't empty. It was crowded with things we didn't say. A week passed like that. Then, too, I told myself I was giving her time, giving myself time. But time doesn't heal what you refuse to touch. It just teaches the pain how to wait. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday evening. I'd had a long day at work, everything piling up, nothing going right. And when I turned onto our street, I saw Clara standing in the rain, struggling with a box that had clearly gotten heavier than she expected. I pulled over without thinking. She looked up as I stepped out of the car, rain soaking through my jacket instantly. I'm fine, she said quickly, pride flashing across her face. I know, I replied, but let me help anyway. She hesitated, then nodded. We carried the box together up her porch steps. Our hands brushed briefly, and the contact sent a jolt through me so sharp I almost dropped my side. Inside, her house felt exactly like it always had. Warm, lived in, familiar. That was what scared me the most. It felt like home in a way my own place never had. Thanks, she said, pushing wet hair out of her face. Anytime. The word hung between us, heavier than it should have. She crossed her arms. You've been quiet. So have you, she smiled faintly. I figured I'd already said my piece. I nodded. You did. Silence again. Always silence. Do you want tea? She asked finally. I should have said no. I'd like that. We sat at her kitchen table, steam rising from our mugs, rain tapping against the windows like a soft reminder of everything unsaid. She watched me carefully, like she was waiting for something. I've been thinking, she said. That makes one of us brave, I muttered. She smiled, then grew serious. You said looking at me hurts because you remember everything you don't have. I stiffened. What did you mean? I stared down at my hands. A lot of things. Like what? I hesitated, then let the truth spill out before I could stop it. Stability, a future I'm not sure I can give anyone, the version of myself I thought I'd be by now. She leaned forward slightly. You think I don't feel that too? I looked up, surprised. I live alone in a house that creaks every night, she continued softly. I work a job I like but don't love. I watch other people move forward while I stay still. That's not how it looks from the outside. She laughed quietly. It never is. I swallowed. Then why don't you pull away? Because avoiding pain doesn't stop it, she said. It just makes it lonelier. Her honesty disarmed me more than anything else could have. I lost someone, I said suddenly. Her expression changed. I know. You don't, I corrected. Not really, I told her then. About the accident, about the phone call in the middle of the night, about the way my life split into before and after without asking permission, about how loving someone deeply once had rewired me in ways I couldn't undo. "I'm afraid," I admitted, my voice rough, "that if I let myself feel this again and lose it, I won't survive it a second time." She reached across the table and rested her hand over mine. It was gentle, steady. "You don't have to decide anything," she said. "You just have to stop running." Her hand was warm, solid, real. I pulled my hand away. Her face fell, not dramatically, not angrily, just quietly. "I'm sorry," I said immediately. "I didn't mean—" "It's okay," she replied, though it clearly wasn't. "I get it, but something had shifted. The honesty we'd opened couldn't be closed again. After that night, things changed, but not the way I expected. We started talking again, small things at first, weather, work, the neighbor's loud dog. Then deeper things crept back in, uninvited, memories, regrets, dreams we pretended we didn't have, but there was a line we didn't cross. No lingering touches, no late-night confessions, no almost kisses, and that restraint became its own kind of torture. One evening, weeks later, we sat on her porch watching the sun disappear behind the houses. She was curled into herself, knees drawn up, wrapped in a blanket. "You ever wonder," she said quietly, "how many chances people miss because they're afraid of getting hurt?" "All the time." She nodded. "I think I missed a few already." My chest tightened. "You didn't." She looked at me then, really looked at me. "Didn't I?" The question stayed with me long after I went home. That night I dreamed of standing in front of a door I couldn't open. Clara was on the other side, calling my name, her voice fading the longer I waited. I woke up gasping, heart racing, hands shaking. The next day I saw her laughing with someone else, a man I didn't recognize. Tall, comfortable, too close. Jealousy hit me so hard I had to sit down. That was when I realized the truth I'd been avoiding. Looking at her didn't hurt because of what I'd lost. It hurt because of what I was still choosing not to claim. And the thought that someone else might step into the space I refused to fill terrified me more than any memory ever had. I stood at my window that night, watching her lights turn off one by one. For the first time in a long time, I didn't avoid the pain. I let it stay. Because maybe, just maybe, pain wasn't the enemy. Maybe regret was. I didn't sleep that night. The image of Clara laughing with him kept replaying in my head like a broken record. It wasn't even that they looked intimate. It was the ease in her posture, the way she tilted her head when she listened, the softness in her smile. Those were things I knew too well, and suddenly they weren't mine anymore, not even in the small, unspoken way they had been before. I kept telling myself I had no right to feel jealous. I was the one who built the wall. I was the one who chose distance. But emotions don't care about fairness. They just show up. The next morning I saw her again. She was watering her plants, sunlight catching in her hair. The man wasn't there. The street was quiet except for birds and the distant hum of traffic. I stepped outside. She noticed immediately. "Morning," she said, her voice cautious but kind. "Morning." We stood there like strangers, pretending we weren't. "Your flowers are surviving," I said, trying for normal. She smiled. "Barely. They're dramatic." "Like their owner?" She laughed, and for a second everything felt like it used to. Then the silence returned. "You had company yesterday," I said before I could stop myself. She raised an eyebrow. "You watching my house now?" "Just noticed." She nodded slowly. "His name is Aaron. He's a friend from work." "Just a friend?" Her gaze sharpened slightly. "Does it matter?" I opened my mouth and closed it. Honesty had become both our weapon and our shield. "It matters to me," I said quietly. She looked at me for a long moment. "Why?" The question wasn't aggressive. It was tired. "Because I realized I'm scared of losing you," I said. "And I think I've been losing you for a while now." She didn't say anything. I stepped closer. "I thought pushing you away would protect me, protect you. But all it did was teach me how empty things feel without you around." Her eyes softened, but she didn't move. "I don't know how to love someone without being terrified," I continued. "But I know how to regret, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I'd been brave." She swallowed. "Aaron asked me out," she said quietly. The words landed like a punch. "I haven't said yes." My heart raced. "Why not?" Because I'm tired of starting something when my heart is somewhere else. I felt like the ground shifted beneath me. Where is it? I asked, though I already knew. She looked at me and there was no humor in her expression this time, with the person who keeps looking at me like I'm already gone. The honesty in her voice hurt more than any silence ever had. I'm here, I said. She tilted her head. Are you? I took another step forward, closing the space between us. I want to be. She studied my face, searching for something. Say it, she whispered. Say what? What you've been dancing around since the day you moved in next door. My throat tightened. I don't want to lose you. That's not it. I stared at her, fear and longing twisting together in my chest. I love you, I said finally. The words felt heavy, real, terrifying. For a moment she didn't react. Then her eyes filled with tears she didn't bother hiding. Do you have any idea how long I've waited to hear that? She whispered. I shook my head. I thought I imagined it, she continued. The looks, the almost moments, the nights on the porch when it felt like we were the only two people in the world. She laughed softly through her tears. And then you disappeared. I'm sorry. I know. She wiped her eyes. But sorry doesn't erase how lonely that felt. I know, I said again. I can't change what I did. I can only choose differently now. She studied me, and for a moment I saw every doubt, every hope, every what-if reflected in her eyes. And what are you choosing? She asked. You. The word came out without hesitation. She stared at me for a long moment, then stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. I froze, then slowly hugged her back, feeling her warmth, her heartbeat, the reality of her in my arms. She pressed her forehead against my chest. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. She laughed quietly. Good. Means you're human. We stayed like that for a long time, neither of us moving, like the world might break if we did. Eventually, she pulled back slightly. I'm not a second chance, she said. If we do this, I'm not something you run from when it gets hard. I know. You can't disappear again. I won't, she searched my face. You promise? I thought about promises, how fragile they were, how powerful. I promise to stay, I said, even when I'm scared. She nodded slowly, then reached up and brushed her thumb across my cheek. Looking at you used to hurt me too, she said softly. Why? Because I thought you'd never look back. Her lips curved into a small, sad smile. Turns out we were both hurting for the same reason. We stood there, two imperfect people finally saying what we'd been afraid to admit. The street was quiet. The world felt strangely still. She glanced toward her house, then back at me. Do you want to come over tonight? She asked. Not to talk about feelings, just to be normal. I smiled for the first time in what felt like months. I'd like that. That evening we sat on her couch, a movie playing in the background neither of us paid attention to. Our hands rested close but not touching, like we were relearning each other's presence. You know, she said, if you avoid me again, I'm moving. I laughed. That's fair. She turned toward me serious. I mean it. I know, she hesitated, then took my hand. It felt simple, it felt terrifying, it felt right. Later, when I walked home, I stopped on my porch and looked at her house. Her light was on. I could see her silhouette moving around her kitchen. For the first time, looking at her didn't hurt. It scared me, it excited me. It made me feel alive, and I realized something important. Pain wasn't what came from looking at her. Pain was what came from pretending I didn't.